You clicked one button to subscribe. It took about 10 seconds. Now try to cancel. Suddenly there's a phone number to call, and when you call, you're put on hold. A chatbot asks if you're still there. You get an offer to stay, and then a better one. Then there's a form to fill in, and an email to confirm the form. Getting in took one click. Getting out takes an afternoon. That gap, easy in, hard out, is not sloppiness. It is the product. Every extra step on the way out makes a few more people give up, and the people who give up keep paying. This month, Australia made that trap illegal. But just make leaving easy turns out to be one of the hardest rules anyone has ever tried to write. Here's what happened. On the 2nd of July 2026, Australia's Parliament passed a law aimed squarely at what it calls subscription traps, services that make money by being hard to leave. It's the biggest upgrade to Australian consumer law in a decade, and it takes full effect in July 2027. It goes after exactly the things you just pictured: the cancel button buried 5 clicks deep, the unsubscribe link hidden where you'll never find it, the free trial that quietly turns into a charge, the renewal that hits with no real warning. The Prime Minister put it simply: a subscription shouldn't be a trap. Break the rules, and a company can be fined up to 100 million Australian dollars. And there's no way out of it. Small companies aren't exempt, and neither are foreign companies that sell into Australia. But notice how the law is written, and because this is the interesting part, it does not hand you a neat checklist. It sets a broad principle. You can't design your service to unfairly push people into choices they wouldn't otherwise make. That's deliberately wide enough to catch tricks nobody has invented yet. America tried something different. Its regulators wrote a sharp, specific version of the same rule, and a court threw it out. We'll come back to why. Now, the argument you might expect is about subscriptions themselves. Are they a convenience or a scam? But that's not the useful question, because the law doesn't ban a single subscription service. It doesn't care that you subscribe. It cares about one specific thing: the gap between how you get in and how you get out. So look at that gap. On the way in, the door swings open at a touch because any friction there costs the company a sale. On the way out, you hit a maze because friction there keeps the money flowing. Same company, 2 completely different doors built that way on purpose. That gap is the whole story, and it shows up far beyond subscriptions. Anywhere it's easy to say yes and strangely hard to say no. So think about why the 2 doors are so different. A market is supposed to keep sellers honest through one simple threat: if the deal goes bad, you leave. That threat is the whole discipline. A business that knows you can walk has to keep you happy. Now, make walking expensive, but not with a fee. A fee is visible, and people get angry at fees. Make it expensive with friction instead. Make them call instead of click. Put them on hold. Hand them a form. Show them 3 screens asking, "Are you sure?" None of it is a wall. At each step, a few more of the people who meant to cancel just don't. They get busy, they give up, they'll do it next week, and next week never comes. Add up enough small steps, and a real share of people keep paying for something they already decided to quit. The friction isn't a side effect of a clunky website. It's a machine for turning "I want out" into "I'll deal with it later." And later is where the money is. And here's why it works so quietly. Every single step on its own looks reasonable. Of course, we confirm you really want to cancel. Of course, we make you an offer. Of course, there's a form. No single step is the trap. The trap is all of them together. The deliberate difference between the door in and the door out, which is exactly what makes it so hard to ban. You can't outlaw a confirmation screen. You have to outlaw the pattern, the whole shape of how the steps add up. So why is that pattern so hard to ban? Because it isn't one thing you can point at. On its own, a confirmation screen is fine. So is an offer to stay, and so is a form. What you're trying to outlaw is the deliberate gap between the easy door and the hard one. And a gap is a slippery thing to write into law. There are really only 2 ways to try. You can draw a sharp line, spell out exactly what's required, like canceling must be as easy as signing up. Or you can write a broad principle. Don't list the steps at all. Just forbid designing your service to unfairly push people where they wouldn't go on their own. One is a precise rule. The other is a general standard. And here's the catch. Whichever way you write it, you pay a price. There's no version that's free. A precise rule is easy to understand, but it can't bend. A broad rule can bend to fit anything, but nobody's quite sure what it means. We'll see the price of each in a moment. But first, an honest complication. And it's the reason none of this is simple. Not all friction is a trap. Asking, "Are you sure?" once, or checking that it's really you who's canceling is fair, even kind. The thing worth banning was never friction itself. It's friction built to be unequal on purpose. So any rule has to do a hard thing. Get rid of the maze without getting rid of the honest, "Are you sure?" So if a country wants leaving to be as easy as joining, without banning subscriptions and without a rule that's either cheated or unreadable, what can it actually build? 3 designs, each with a price. The first is the sharp line. Leaving must be as easy as joining. Same channel, same number of steps. The strength is that anyone can check it. You don't need a judge to see that a 5-step cancel fails a 1-click sign up. But here's the price America hit. Companies can find sneaky ways around as easy as in the borderline cases. And because the rule is so clear and specific, it's an easy target. One court struck down the whole thing in 2025. The second is the broad principle. Forbid the unfair design itself and let it stretch to cover whatever new tricks appear. The strength is that you can't dodge it by inventing a new maze, but the price is fog. Honest businesses play it too safe out of fear. The cunning ones just ignore it and dare you to take them to court. And what the rule actually means gets decided slowly, one court case at a time. You can't know in advance where the line is. The third design doesn't touch the exit at all. It changes what happens when you do nothing. Right now, a subscription renews forever until you fight your way out. Flip that. Make it expire on its own unless you actively choose to keep it. Or at least force a clear reminder before every charge you're about to be billed with a single tap to pause. The strength is that silence stops meaning "keep charging me." But the price is that it punishes the honest customer too. The person who genuinely wants the service now has to sign up again and again on a clock, and the reminders blur into all the other notifications nobody reads. You haven't removed the friction. You've just moved it onto the people who didn't want to leave. Notice what none of these does. None of them says subscriptions are bad. Each one asks the same question a different way. How do you make leaving as easy as joining without punishing the people who actually want to stay? So, come back to that afternoon on hold trying to leave something you joined in a single click. The headline will be about subscriptions and about one country's new law. That's a real story, but underneath it is something bigger, and it shows up in far more than streaming. Whenever it's effortless to say yes and strangely hard to say no, someone built that exit on purpose. Here's why. A market only keeps a company honest as long as you can actually leave. And friction is the quiet way to make sure you can't. There are fair reasons to put a small step on the way out, to check it's really you, to make sure you meant it. But one step is not a maze, and asking you to confirm is not the same as trapping you. So the next time leaving something is far harder than joining it, the useful question isn't whether the service is good, it's this: who decided the way out should be harder than the way in? And when a rule tries to fix it, which mistake did they make? A rule so specific that companies can cheat it, or so vague that nobody knows what it means?